together for the amazing People's Lawyer.
Fucking hell. It's so rare to see such a large group of human beings. Hey, that sit close to each other, talk to each other, hug each other, like each other. Oh my God. Right. As Luke says, I'm David, aka the People's Lawyer, and I've got to say that I just don't give a fuck. What do I not give? Correct. Now, but on the other hand, I care very deeply. So how do you square that little equation? How do you not give a fuck and care very deeply at the same time? And that's what I'm still wrestling with. You see what I mean? Because you are all here, you've got the same situation that I've got. You don't give a fuck. You don't give a fuck what Boris says, what Matt Hancock says, what Bill Gates is up to. You don't give a fuck, and nor should you. But on the other hand, you care about your own life, you care about your loved ones, you want the truth out there, you want to see the world straighten up, because it's a bit skew-whiffy at the moment. Thing is, I say at the moment, it's always been skew-whiffy, it's just that recently we've worked that out. That's the only difference. There's not a lot going on, really. The only thing that's going on is that we're working it all out. It's always been the way it's been. And that's the key, really. So, I'm here tonight. I'm not going to get too technical. There's a lot of people here that have been to seen me quite a few times, so they know roughly what I say about the law. So I'm going to kind of skirt around that. I'm going to keep it bigger picture style-y and more on the motivational side than on the technical legal side. Now, there's lots of reasons for that. First of all, I'm a bit pushed for time. If I wanted to do a full-on legal session, it'd be about 6 hours. And we're only here till about 9 o'clock, aren't we?
We'll do that next time.
Yeah, do that next time. Advance warning, folks.
When's that, May? Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be more, it's not going to be technical, it's going to be more bigger picture. And you'll see where we go when we get there, to be honest. And it's really designed to motivate you to keep going and to give you an idea of the best way forward when you keep going, basically. My assumption is that this is not going to go away anytime soon. I firmly believe that, once evil gets a bit of a grip, it's not going to say, oh, sorry, didn't mean that. Didn't mean to lock you up for a year. Shit happens. It's not going to be like that. The next lockdown, and they're not lockdowns, they're economic shutdowns and neighbourhood watch schemes on steroids. That's all they are, right? Or neighbourhood snitch schemes, that's all they are. So lockdown is when the military are roaming the streets, you come out of your house, gun to your head, get back in. That's a lockdown. So this is neighbourhood snitch. So, we're not going to get too technical, and we're going to keep it light and bright and tight, as one of my musical directors used to tell me. And we'll get going. Okay, I'm going to... This is the wisdom of an American. This is the wisdom of an American psychiatrist who I tuned into very recently. In order to stay sane, you have to feel, you have to see, you have to observe the world right now as just one big, giant, feckin' loony bin, right? Because that's what it is. That's what it is. It's a lunatic asylum. So on a smaller scale, all the people around you, your family, your friends, not these people, obviously, but you have to regard them as insane, because they regard you as insane. So what's good enough for them is good enough for you. Okay, so, and I'm saying this not to stir trouble between the two factions. I'm saying this because it will help you to stay sane. So in other words, don't take anyone seriously. If someone says, "Where's your mask?" right? Treat them as a clown. It's Coco the clown saying, "Look, I've got fancy dress on and I'm feeling a bit lonely. How come you've got no fancy dress on?" But it's obviously it has serious implications, because some people are so stressed, they don't want to comply, but they're so stressed that they put a mask on because they can't bear the idea of being confronted. So there's all kinds of levels of compliance. There's the the total freedom practitioner, thank you very much, you know, haven't gone near a mask. I wouldn't know what a mask was, right? And I've taken 1 or 2 consequences, but because I know what I'm doing, I give it them back. So I haven't had any problems on the whole. But on the other extreme, you've got the total compliance people, you know, the brain dead people, they're in the mammalian brain. They've been watching way too much TV and way too scary. They're bought into the fear mongering, and they've got a mask on because they're scared shitless. And then you've got all that grey lot in the middle who aren't scared, but they don't want to be seen to be, you know, different. So I'd much rather have the scared shitless lot, because I can deal with that. But it's the grey area that I find it hard to deal with. You know, like, what? Just run that by me again. Why are you not wearing a mask? Because it's easier to do a bit of shopping. Yeah, but hang on. What do you think about mask wearing? What do you think about the COVID thing? I don't know, but I just thought if I go to Sainsbury's, I just want to get in and get. This is narcissism. It's, you know, getting to go home, you know? You want a quiet life. I'm happy with a noisy life. To have a noisy life, you need to be quite resilient. So the first thing I would recommend is, if your health isn't 100%, get it 100%, because this is a war. This is a full-on war. And you wouldn't fight a war. You wouldn't sort of hobble into battle, would you? You know, just hold fire, you know? And, you know, just hold fire, because I've got a bit of a limp. You know, that's not how it works. You've got to be full on. You've got to take the hits and, you know, lick your wounds and come back out. And that's how a lot of the conscious movement, I used to be more of a conscious mover than a truther. And the conscious people didn't come over to the truth side because no, we don't fight wars. We're into meditation and peace. We don't do that kind of stuff. Well, they're all coming over now, panicking, saying, shit, I'm getting letters about vaccines and masks and tests, and what do we do now? Well, stop meditating and do a bit of fucking research. And I don't mean that offensively, it's just that they're coming over. They're just coming over to the side of truth. Ideally, they'd bring their consciousness with them, because on the truth side, we need their consciousness. We need the bigger picture. So it's a great team effort. Anyway, right, I've dropped my baton. So, treat the world as one giant lunatic asylum, and you've got greater chances of staying sane. Right, this is an example. Before COVID, if you wore a mask in a bank, they called the police. After COVID, you don't wear a mask in the bank, and they call the police. That's what I mean by insane. Everything has been turned the wrong way up. You know, call the police, he's not wearing a mask. If you just said that 5 years ago, can you imagine, or even 2 years ago, call the police, he's not wearing a mask. It's just, right, when we get a bit more serious, I love the light-hearted bit, but I was going to pretend that actually it wasn't the talk, it was a disco, you know, like, but sod it, I'm here now. What have these institutions got in common? Banking, law, media, healthcare, food, education, religion. If you've been to one of my talks, you'll know the answer to this. And what I'll say, in case I forget to say, if there's anything technical that you think I've missed out, I haven't missed it out. It's again an issue of time, and also the People's Lawyer's got its own channels on YouTube, until further notice, BitChute and Telegram, and the blanks are filled in on the videos that you can get free access to. We're shooting 1 a week, sometimes 2, and we're breaking all the information down into bite-sized chunks, because some people are mums and dads and they only want to know about what to do with their boys and girls. Some people have got issues with travel, some people have got issues with going on rallies and getting arrested. Everyone's got different issues. So we're breaking that down into bite-sized videos. So, I'll leave you to ponder this. What could these venerable institutions possibly have in common? I'm going to give you some clues. Here's a question if you're thinking about banking. Do you live in a home built by a bank?
No.
Correct. No one does. So why the feck are we paying banks to live in our houses and flats and apartments? I'm not going to say anything more than that. Just let that one sink in. If the bank didn't build it, why are we paying the bank to live in it? Just let that sink in. Not going to say any more than that. Legal. Who are you? Who are you? Very few people know who they are. That's why there's so much chaos. Nobody knows who they are. That's, if you don't know who you are, you haven't got remedy. Half your remedy is knowing who you are. The other half is knowing what to do about it once you find out who you actually are. This is what we're going to cover tonight. Who we are and what the legal implications of knowing who we are. You know what I mean? The other strand of the Ponzi scheme. This is a massive global Ponzi scheme, folks, and it's been going forever. It has its modern versions, but you know, we are the victims of a massive trick. Even life itself. Life itself could even be a trick, to be honest. But I won't go down that rabbit hole tonight. Media. What is the point of media coverage? What is the point? What are they doing? There's no truth in there. They're just distracting us from the truth. So what's the point of it? Why are we even watching television? Some of us hopefully have chucked the TV away, you know, maybe waited patiently until a COVID marshal passed and then dropped it out the window just as the COVID marshal was going past. Oh, sorry about that, mate. Didn't mean to do that. So, first thing I would recommend, if you haven't already done it, get rid of your TV set. It's toxic. It's purpose-built to basically undermine your brain function, destroy brain cells, put you in a trance. Has anyone seen the film They Live? Yeah. They Live, 1988, Roddy Piper, made by John Carpenter, yeah. John Carpenter, great film. It sums up what's going on. Basically, our hero has got to deactivate a TV transmitter in order to save humanity from its own zombified state. Okay, and that is so allegorical, it's so close to what's going on. It's just ridiculous. And that was 1988, that was pretty prophetic. So what's the point of media coverage? You know, 100,000 people turn up to London and Sky News say a few hundred extremists turned out to protest against the lockdown. A few hundred fascist, anti-Semite, anti-black, anti-this, anti-gay, anti-transgender, anti-whatever, you know. Whereas all you have to do is turn up and you can see that it's the entire country, or a microcosm of the entire country, you know. No extremists. You couldn't find an extremist if you sat there with a clipboard and interviewed everyone one by one. You wouldn't find an extremist. You'd just find extreme common sense. That's all you'd find. Healthcare. What are the only two causes of disease? Again, everything's complicated. The dark side want it complicated. They're distracting you. You think you have to go somewhere to get a particular experience, whereas most experiences are just inside your skin. You don't have to go anywhere. So they've got a very complex picture of illness, disease, and how to treat it. They never heal it, and they come for you if you say you heal it, because healing can take place. It's called getting the bigger picture, and it's called also removing the only two causes of disease, only two. And I'll tell you, because I hate to not tell you, you've got to tell you. Some of you already know, obviously, if you're health practitioners, it's toxicity and it's deficiency. So too much of shite and not enough of the good stuff. That's it. That's pretty much it. That covers 99% of disease. Pretty much. That's all it is. It's that simple. So your doctor, instead of prescribing shite, should say, where do you think you're taking in toxins? You know, is your room full of plastics? Is your air rubbish? Do you not keep the window open enough? You know, do you wash in toxic chemicals, etc., etc.? Or are you taking enough vitamins, minerals, aminos, or whatever? That's how they should talk, but they're not trained to talk like that, because they have been taken out of school or into a medical school and indoctrinated into unadulterated bullshit. Okay? If someone tells me they're a lawyer or a doctor, I have an immediate judgmental assumption that they are morons. I used to be a lawyer, and to be honest, I was a moron. So I know what it is to be a moron. I knew nothing about life. All I knew was how to pass a test in law and put a shirt on and taking a few clients, and I knew nothing about life. That's why I got out very quickly. So I'm an escapee from the system. So in a way, in a very, very indirect way, very indirect, it's like, it's so tenuous, it's probably almost criminal to say, I'm kind of a whistleblower, you know? But very subtle, very gentle, you know? Right, so there you go. Nutrition. Why does the medical profession ignore nutrition? You are what you eat. The Chinese say you are what you eat. On a course I did 20 years ago, they said, yeah, actually, you are the difference between what you eat and what you secrete. So, but I'm not going to get too technical. You are what you eat. So if you eat shit, you turn to shit. Your thoughts turn to shit. You know, it's all connected. This is quantum entanglement. If you drink from a Coca-Cola can, you're going to get toxic thoughts. You may think, how can you get toxic thoughts from Coke? You can! Because you don't know what the intention they've put into that Coke. We're not just talking about biochemicals, we're talking about intentions and thoughts and transference, you know? So, why does the medical profession ignore nutrition? Well, the simple answer is that if they didn't ignore it, if they took it into account, they'd have to stop prescribing drugs. And so it would not be good for business. It's business. Everything is business, folks. There's nothing that isn't commerce or business. Nothing. Nothing. That's what we're finding about. We thought these religions and charities were religious and charitable. They're just businesses. Every single one of them. Education question. What are the two meanings of the word education? Well, as an author of a book on education, before I really woke up big time, I used to make a big deal of saying, well, you've got schooling on the one hand and education on the other, and I thought I was being clever dicky, you know, but in fact I wasn't. Schooling is, I used to say, schooling is for children and it limits your growth and undermines your potential for anything, basically. Whereas education allows you to be who you really are, and it draws out, from the Latin educare, to draw out, it draws out who you really are. But someone's put me right recently. Another meaning of education is to train animals. So if you go to school, you're either going to be schooled like a fish, as in school of fish, so you're going to be taught how to move in one synchronous movement, you know, like they all move at the bell together in the same direction. So that's fish. Or trained to comply and conform like a nicely tamed and obedient Pavlov dog. Yeah? So you're either a fish or an animal, but you're not a human. You're not a potential man or woman. So those are that's the clue about what's going on from the education world. Religion. What's the problem with believing in God? The problem with believing in God is that if you believe in anything, it doesn't exist. Because if it existed, you would know it. You wouldn't have to believe it. It separates you from whatever it is you believe in. Stunned silence. Just let that sink in, folks. Believing in something is a way of annihilating it in existence. You've annihilated it. It's gone. If you believe in it, it's gone. So that's where religion took God out of the equation. Okay? Stunned silence. Okay, so all these false paradigms that we're given, science or religion? Neither. Thank you. Because they're both based on belief systems. Scientists believe that mathematics works, whichever way up you do it. But mathematics does work on some level, but they can only measure truth using maths. You can't measure truth using maths, because you need mathematical consistency, which is a left brain thing. It's, you know, it just doesn't mean, truth comes here directly. So they can measure facts and they can measure incidents, but they can't measure truth. You can't measure truth scientifically. It's a contradiction in terms. And if God is truth, that means there's no God in science. And if I'm right that believing in God basically takes God out of the equation, that means there's no God in religion either. So there's a third way. I haven't got time for the third way. That'll be next week, or next month, or whenever. Yeah.
When is it?
We'll call it the third way. Right. What have these institutions got in common? Well, I'm repeating the question, and we're going to give a nice, quick answer. crimes against humanity. They are all, it's organised crime, folks. Religion, healthcare, food. Oh, I think food was possibly missing there. Well, nutrition was in there. Nutrition, food, education, law, banking, all crimes against humanity. You go to a lawyer with a problem, now the lawyer will get rich, your problem won't be solved. You go to a doctor with a problem, the doctor will get rich, your problem won't be solved. You go to a journalist with the truth, and they will piss themselves laughing. So you go home with your tail between your legs. This is the world that we are dissolving as we speak. We can't dissolve it. What the conscious crew got wrong is you can't dissolve it with good intention. Action manifests intention. Intention doesn't manifest intention. Action manifests intention. Let that one sink in. You only have an intention that is proportionate to the action you've taken to bring it into the reality. Intention is wet fart. Only action. That's why I do what I do. I don't intend to make the world a better place. I just get out there and crack on with it. I have no intention to make the world a better place. None whatsoever. Zero. But I'm just out here doing what I do. If as a result of me doing what I do, the world is a better place, fantastic, job done. But it's not about intention, it's about doing. It's about responding to the heart's desire for purpose and fulfillment and, timing, all kinds of things. Synchronicity, serendipity, any words ending in itty. City, anything like that. So the crimes against humanity. So basically that means that whichever way you turn, you are the victim of a genocidal crime against you. No exceptions. We are all victims of genocide, whether it's mental genocide, spiritual genocide, psychological genocide, emotional genocide, social genocide, you name it. Okay, now, the difference between us and them out there with masks on and staying home watching the BBC, they can't face that truth. They cannot face that truth. The reason I can face that truth is I've always sensed it. I didn't know it, but I just sensed it. I just said, there's something wrong. I don't understand people. They don't understand me. There's something wrong. So I've been pre-prepared. This last year has been the greatest year of my life by 1,000,000 miles. I found out why I was born. COVID has been a total blessing to me. I do understand why it's a curse to other people. I get that. It's obvious. You don't have to think it's not. It's a no-brainer. But it's been a total blessing to someone like me who was waiting. I was waiting for my life to start, basically. You know what I mean? Waiting patiently, like, okay, now, come on. Right, the system, in one word, is narcissistic. This is the problem. And we're going to look at the attributes of narcissism. And in your mind, I want you to think about how you've suffered from narcissism. And we all have. I mean, pretty much. They're not malignant, but pretty much my entire nuclear family are on that spectrum. But now that I know, I understand narcissism, it explains a lot of things. So there's a lot of healing there. I think, okay, that explains why I went to America after graduating from a great university, had an amazing 6-week tour, and when I got back, I just crept in the back door and nobody said a bloody word. Because being narcissists, they don't care what you're doing. If it doesn't benefit them, they're not interested. That's how narcissism works. What's in it for me? So, now that you know the government have got a what's in it for me, narcissistic platform, if you like, there's a better word than that, but I'll come to that later, then that will help you understand. Understanding is a multi-dimensional, multi-level phenomenon. Once your understanding increases, then it lightens your load, because all the question marks just, fade away. And it's a kind of baggage, and by letting those question marks go, then you're in effect getting rid of baggage. Right, so let's have a look at what kind of tricks narcissists get up to. And 15 signs that you are in an abusive relationship. So again, we're going to equate state governmental narcissism with the narcissism that you're familiar with in your everyday lives. Right, the narcissist stops you seeing friends and family. Just think COVID, folks. There's, you know, the narcissist, you're not allowed to question it, or her, or him. It monitors everything you do. It tells you what to wear. It tells you that you are crazy and that no one agrees with you. It controls the finances or won't let you work. Okay, it needs controllers. This is about power and control, folks. That's all the dark agenda is. That's the agenda of the narcissist in your life. They want power and control over you. And they intimidate you and bully you until they get the level of power and control that suits them. And that's all the government are doing. It won't let you out without permission, hello? But as sovereigns, who needs permission? My life has been totally the same as it was before lockdown. Obviously, I can't just rock up to a restaurant and, you know, crack open the window and sit myself down and wonder where all the staff is. It's not going to work, is it? That would be a genuine arrestable offence. But on the whole, my life hasn't changed. It monitors your phone calls or emails. It tells you it's for your own good and that they know better. Because they do, don't they? They always do. It calls you names or shames you for being stupid or selfish. It dismisses your opinions, okay, if you're on, I got a lifetime ban from Facebook, you know, being deplatformed, dismissing your opinions. I had trolls on there, not too many actually, considering some of my opinions, but, you know, they just dismiss, they never, have you noticed that these narcissists, psychos, sociopaths and trolls, they never have a coherent argument. They haven't got a single coherent argument. All they ever say is, you're talking bollocks. You need locking up. Oh, that's a powerful argument. Yes, I think you've won. I give up. I do need locking up. Thank you very much for pointing that out. That's going to save me years of stress, figuring out why people don't understand me, because I need locking up. It punishes you for breaking the rules, but the rules keep changing. The lockdown, what was it? We were flattening the curve for 3 weeks, was it? A year ago? A year on, we're still here. And I firmly believe, don't quote me, it's just my own opinion, that the next lockdown will be for 2 years, and the one after will be forever. And that's why I do what I do, because I've got to pre-warn people to be ready for a permanent lockdown. We can prevent it, but we have to assume the worst for now, without buying too much into it emotionally. Don't get fearful, because we're going to have time to put in place all the alternative strategies and networks to beat a permanent lockdown. And it will only apply to people who've signed up for the metropolis life, you know? We would have scarpered to the smaller towns, villages and communes, you know? In the worst case scenario, anyway. But the way, if I know narcissists like I know narcissists, they're not going to let up. They're not going to let up. This is a life or death struggle. And we have to treat it as such. Yeah? If without buying into the fear, that's all. Just be commonsensical. Take each day as it comes. Look after yourself. Keep networking, which is brilliant, which is why this is a brilliant event. Gaslights you, challenges your memory of events and makes you doubt yourself. Yeah, that's typical narcissism. For those heroes out there who spout the truth in front of the wrong people, they end up getting sectioned under the mental health legislation. The truth, yes, it can set you free, but not while there's a constable listening to you. It'll have the opposite effect. It will see you sectioned, and now they only need one psychiatrist. So I'd advise people who have got all this wisdom to spout, keep it to yourself until further notice. It's not safe to spout it, certainly not in a public place. Yeah? And when we do the rallies and the marches, and I'm anywhere near a microphone, the first thing I say is keep the peace, folks. No swearing, No threatening, no, because they've got the Public Order Act, haven't they? The words and behaviour likely to cause harassment, alarm or distress or whatever it is. Yeah? And if you like, we were on a rally about 6 months ago and someone pointed a finger at a boy who had a mask on and pointed to the mum, you should be ashamed of yourself for putting a boy in a mask. Well, yes, she should, but she has done, and it's her boy, so it's none of our business. And when she said, look, I was supportive of you guys, but now you've done that, I'm not, you can piss off. And I actually sided with her. I said, she's right. We've got no business telling her that she's being a bad mom. The very fact that we're out on the streets without masks, that says it all. We don't need to point the finger. So it's all about peaceful, self-loving non-compliance. It's all about showing the way. It's not about telling them how wrong they are. It's about showing them how right we are. Yeah? Controls what you read, watch and say. Because they can't have you thinking for yourself. So they're deplatforming, they're deleting, cancelling culture, cancelling wisdom. So, if we're not careful, the future generations will not know anything. They'll know nothing. They'll only know what they've seen on a gadget, which is pretty scary. Plays the victim. If all goes wrong, it's all your fault. So is your fault. It's always your fault. The system won't allow it. It doesn't have self-consciousness. The system, remember, is mechanical. It has no soul or heart. It's mechanical. You've arrived. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. There are strange things going on. I tried to use Dropbox this week. It stole half my files from my computer.
It's freaky. It's so freaky, Dropbox.
Zoom keeps booting me off. I could easily get paranoid, I'm telling you. I'm that far away from paranoia.
You need to be sectioned.
Yeah.
Paranoia is real.
Yeah, that's right. Just because there's, what is it? Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean there's no one out to get you. Yeah. It's not one simple system, folks. The beast has tentacles. And the beast, you can interpret that phrase however you want, but the beast is basically not of God, not of divine source, not of universal truth. It's something else. It's it's whatever you feel it is. Some people call it Satan. It has lots of names, but it's not in truth, and it's scared shitless. It's scared for its own existence. So misery loves company. It's trying to pull us down with it, basically. Right, so we're going to focus on the legal system to re-establish our sovereignty. The sovereignty at birth, I'm going to talk briefly about how sovereignty is taken from us at birth. I'm not going to go into detail. Again, you can get this in talks, videos online, or if you do my course, we can look at it in more depth. So sovereignty is, you're born sovereign with free will choice. That's the whole point of being born on this planet. It's a free will choice planet. It's not a planet where you have to do as you're told. It's the opposite of that. You can do as you please. All you have to do is obey the law. And the law is the universal law, God's law, whatever you want to call it. Prime creator principle. Cause no harm. That's it. Now, I know that the common law divides it into loss, breach of the peace, as well, but it's really just cause no harm. We need to simplify everything. If you're not causing harm, you're not breaking the law. And if you're not breaking the law, you're above the law. And if you're above the law, you're certainly above an officer who's below the law. You're at least 2 rungs above any officer. They're below the law because they're looking up at the law saying it's the law. And if you've not done any harm, you're looking down at the law saying, no, it's not the law. Yeah? So you've got to do these gymnastics in your mind to realise who you are. So we were born sovereign, but our parents, who were described on the birth certificate application as informants, there's a clue, informed on us, grasped on us, snitched. They had good intentions. Remember what I said about intention, right? They snitched on us, and before you know it, we are a birth certificated legal name. We can't be that. But what happens is society or culture makes us believe it. We get confused. At school, when they call out your name, they either just use your surname or the full name, but whichever name you use, they're certainly not, very rarely, unless you're really, really tiny in tiny tot school or early primary, they use the full name, and they're just training you to accept identification with the full legal name, which is owned by the government, Crown copyrighted, and when you say things like, when you answer a question, what's your name, and you say, my name is, you're in breach of copyright. And now you know why they can charge you. They're charging you for breach of copyright. It's all commerce. That name is your commercial trade name. So if you want to keep on breaching copyright, keep calling yourself your full legal name and say, my name is, or I am. Even worse is I am. So, I am, anything that you follow after the I am is that I am, is the divine statement of truth, of existence. I am that I am. So if you say I am, and then follow it with your full legal name, you're speaking spiritual gobbledygook. You're saying I am, but I'm also a piece of paper. I'm also some symbols on a piece of paper. Make your mind up. Are you a divine fractal version of God or the universe, or are you a symbol, a sign, a scroll on a piece of... Make your mind up. What are you? Who are you? If you haven't cottoned onto this and you get into trouble, because when someone says, what's your name, and you give it, well, now you know why you're getting into trouble. Because you're giving yourself over to the state. It's only... So, before you gave yourself over, it only owned the name. But when you identify with the name, it now owns you. So now we know why people get thrown in the back of police vans and they've not done any harm. Because they've inadvertently given themselves over to the state. A man or a woman can't be arrested. You can't arrest a man or a woman. You can only arrest a legal name. So those really brave souls who know that can sit it out in a police cell knowing that they have to be released at some point if you don't give them the name. Now, I was arrested recently, and I did give them the name because I overheard them saying, oh, we'll just get his name and then we'll de-arrest. So I thought, I did the maths. I was 60 miles from home, and the drivers of the car that came with had thought I'd been taken to Blackpool, so they scarfed back to Manchester. So I thought, well, how am I going to get home? So if I give them the name and they de-arrest me, then I've got a chance because it's not too late and I can get a train. So everything is context. So I just gave them the name. I said, the person's name is, the person's address is, the person's date of birth is, and so I'm not owning it. I'm not saying that I am that person, and I'm not saying that that person is my property. So I'm not falling foul of their rules. And then to add to that, this is something that I cover in the videos and on the course. To add to that, to make it stronger, I just say, I give you this information under duress of circumstances and reserving all unalienable rights. End of. No paperwork, and I was free to go inside 2 minutes. Okay, so I'm not here to cover well, in fact, there's a video coming. No, we could cover that bit. No, but there's a video coming out this weekend which will cover what to say to a police constable or officer to minimise the risk of being arrested. There's no guarantees. If they're psychos on a mission, or if they've got a chart and they've got right, well this is Blackburn and we've got to take 10 off the streets. All right, this is Manchester, we've got to get 20 off it. If they're working to a chart, then it's a numbers game. They're not interested in you or what you've done. They're just pulling you off the streets because it's all a psychological operation to convince the masses that these free thinkers are bad people and need to be removed from sight. So, when you overly identify with your legal name, you place yourself in potential servitude. Now, there are some happy slaves and serfs, and there are some miserable free people. We're complex beings. But it's all about consciousness. It's all about knowing what you've sacrificed by standing under the government name. So, To counterbalance this, to escape the clutches of government interference and tyranny, you need to do three things. You need to learn who you are at law. You need to know that you have God-given rights or universal rights. And you need to learn how to assert them. So that's three things. It's a threefold process. Who am I? What rights do I have? And how do I assert them? And have I got the balls to assert them? So you could have put a fourth one on there, right? Now, in the current climate, if you haven't been arrested, you're not leading a full life. Seriously. You've got to get yourself arrested, folks. You just get it over with. No, this is not a joke. Just get it over with. Because then it's a bit like the virus. Not that there is a virus, but an illness. It makes you immune. If you're not being violent, they'll treat you well. It's a pantomime. You'll be out on the streets in minutes, and you'll realise, oh, there's no big deal. So please get yourself arrested. Right, I mentioned this before. You are born sovereign with free will choice. Well, we know that. Okay? Sovereigns with free will choice. But if you've been through the system, you come out, you go in whole, you come out fragmented and fractured. That is the entire purpose of the schooling system. It's to fragment and fracture you. It's to give you what's known as complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which makes you vulnerable to the programming, conditioning and indoctrination, and makes you unable or unwilling to stand up for yourself and to stand up for what you know or believe, or not believe, know to be right and true. Makes you vulnerable to attack. No one is above you at law. No one. They're not above you or below you. There was never slavery. Because they pretended that slavery was a legal thing. Well, how does that work? If no one's above you at law, and they're saying that the law says you can't be a slave. There were no slaves. That's another trick that history is playing. There were people who thought they were slaves, but they weren't actually slaves. So it's a bit like mask wearers. The slaves were the first mask wearers. And now this modern version of the slaves are wearing a mask. It's what they're used to. It's what makes them feel safe. So the slave said, yeah, put the cuffs on me, please. I feel safe. Some people are born to feel insecure and frightened by freedom. Now, to someone like me, a free spirit, that is just mind-boggling. Because I'm at the other end of the spectrum. I get stressed when my freedom is challenged. But some people get stressed when freedom is offered to them. So, if no one is above you at law, that means that there is no such thing as a legal obligation without consent or agreement. Now, this is easy to understand in English, but just think about the implications. No such thing as legal obligation. The census, what does it say on the envelope at the front? You are legally required. Well, if you do my course or if you watch some of the videos, you'll see that that doesn't make sense on any level. Who is you? You can watch a video from the inimitable Bill Turner from New Zealand called Who is You? Who is you? You tell me. You in correct English is second person plural, so it's inherently ambiguous. It's thee. Thee art, or thou art obliged by, not you. You is ambiguous. You can't, even if you theoretically could oblige someone, you can't oblige them unless you've identified them. You doesn't identify them. We're only taught English grammar to the age of about 9 or 10. After secondary, it leaves grammar alone. So we don't have advanced grammar. We should know this. You is ambiguous. It doesn't mean anything. Legal obligation. Oh, sorry, I was talking about requirement. Legally required. Required means requested. Because if there's no obligation without consent, that means required cannot mean obliged or mandated. You are legally required means some random group of people who can't be identified is hereby requested to fill in this form and sign it and send it back. I would go so far as to say that if you comply with that request, if you fill out the census, sign it and send it back, you are signing up for the genocidal agenda. They're taking a head count. The signatures mean genocide tick. I know it sounds like a very strong statement to say, but in that, if you follow the route of logic, whenever you sign anything that's sent by the government, you're telling the government that you approve of it, what it does, you consent to what it does, you stand under its authority. You've surrendered sovereignty. If you've surrendered sovereignty, then you're one step away from surrendering life. So it's a form of suicide, folks. Filling in the census, signing it, sending it off. Similar ditto tax return, although that's a bit more vicarious. You know, but you sign and send back anything, you're actually saying, if you have the plan to depopulate and you fancy me being part of that depopulation plan, I'm in, sign me up. Oh, we don't have to, you just have. So they've got to have your consent or agreement, because no one is above you at law. No consent, no deal. It's that simple. People say, oh, I've got this census, what do I do? Well, you can either bin it, or you can send it back, and there's a formula on the videos. No legal contract, no lawful consent, return for cause without dishonour, offer to contract declined. There's, you know, but binning it is just as good, as long as they've got to have evidence of your consent, otherwise there's no obligation. I wrote to the HMRC 6 years ago, when after a few years of being a nice, good little boy, and I just said, my company's dissolved, I've gone private. They put the penalty up to £1,000. And I'd done my research by then, so they wrote back saying, thank you very much, and they cancelled the penalties, and I've not heard from them since. People don't understand how powerful they are. They are our servants. We're not their servants. They are our servants. And now they've gone corporate, they actually don't even exist. So before they were our servants, and now they don't exist. And yet we're still... So maybe we're still in the lunatic asylum. Yeah?
They still have to do the self-assessment or not?
No.
To get the money back, you know, for self-assessment, you do the tax.
Well, that's your decision as a sovereign. You weigh up the pros and the cons.
All right.
But you don't have to do anything, ever.
Oh yeah, just to get the money from them, of course. You know.
Well, that's different.
Yeah.
So, this means that the following are voluntary acts. Voluntary acts. Answering questions is a voluntary act. Police officer taps you on the shoulder and asks you a question. If you answer it, it's a voluntary act. But again, you've signed up to be a government serf, property of the state. Why would you do that? Well, you went to school, and if you ignored the teacher put you in a corner. If you still ignored her, she sent you off to the head teacher or gave you extra lines. It's just Pavlovian training. It's not rude to ignore someone if their interests are commercial or tyrannical. It's actually healthy. It's even more healthy to turn around and say, why are you talking to me? What business do you have with me? I'm just stood here minding my own business. Why don't you do the same? This is what, we need to maybe even role play this. We need to role play this. Go back in your mind, not now obviously, but go back in your mind to when that teacher question you. Why are you late? Where's your homework? Why aren't you sitting still or whatever? And you turn it around in your mind. Well, miss or sir, why are you asking me these stupid questions? Am I obliged to answer them? You know, are you on the narcissistic spectrum, miss? That's what you have to do in your mind to retrieve the power. You've got to go back down your own timeline. Where's my power gone? Well, there's some of it right there. So you've got to do that in your mind when you're meditating. Do that in your mind. It'll sort it. So, these are voluntary acts. Answering questions. Taking tests. If your driving test is voluntary, so how would a COVID test not be voluntary? What's the difference? People are not thinking clearly. They sign up for a driving test as a conscious voluntary decision, And yet, the thing, so that means I don't have to drive, but I'll choose to. And then when they're offered a COVID test, all of a sudden they think that they've got no choice anymore. So, taking a vaccine, all voluntary actions, wearing a mask, filling out a form, any form. Why would you fill a form out? Unless you've got something in it for you and you decide that the benefits outweigh the potential cost. Keeping a social distance, that's voluntary. Staying at home, not going to work, not opening your business, these are voluntary acts. You know, we have a pandemic of compliance and fear. The virus is fear, the pandemic is compliance. I've got that on stickers that I'm sticking around town. That's all it is. There's nothing else. There's nothing but fear and compliance. Nothing else. The rest is a shit show. Organised crime shit show. That's all it is. It's that simple. Anything you are required to do is merely an offer to contract in commerce. Doesn't matter what it is or who offers it you. It's an offer to contract in commerce, whether it's a judge, a governor, a teacher, a doctor offering you a vaccine. We're sending letters to doctors now, and they're very, these conditional acceptances, and the doctors are panicking. They're saying, well, all right then. It was only an invite. Then we're making them backtrack a bit, because they get heavy, we've made an appointment for you. Yes, again, it's like being back in school. We made an appointment for you for 2:30 on the 15th. Make sure you bring a mask and don't phone a friend because you might scare them. And people are just, they get a letter from a doctor, and to a lot of people, that's like a mandate from God.
Yeah, because they don't ask the question. If they ask the question, more people would say no, but they intimidate people by saying, we have your appointment slot here.
That's right. It's almost like, you're coming. This is when you're coming. Like, because we're back at school. We have an infantilized population. Because we've spent way too long in school. We should only go to school for, I would say, about 2 years. Long enough to learn to read and write, count to about 1,000, and then piss off. Seriously. Right, this is your healing mantra. I am the Lord. When I was in Birmingham not long ago, I was one of the supporting speakers for David Icke. And the bastards put me on straight after him. So I thought, right, well, he's whipped up 2,000 people into a frenzy. So I thought, I can't do that. I can't outdo Ike. So I'll do the opposite. So I calmed everyone down and I said, right, let's do a meditation. Let's do 30 seconds of silence. And I said, I want you to think about the most powerful mantra that is more powerful than we are the people, more powerful than we are the 99%. And after 30 seconds, if you haven't started muttering it, I'll mutter it for you. And it was this. I used the royal we. We are the Lord. And I whispered it. I said, whisper it with me. We are the Lord. We are the Lord. We created a crescendo. It was very powerful. And there was no violence that day. There was no arrest, nothing. I don't know whether it's because of that meditation, but it was, a bit more than a coincidence. Because I think it calmed the police down. Remember, police are, they're also men and women too, behind that uniform, some of them. And their anxiety levels are very high at the moment, very high. So they're looking for, they're frightened. I mean, if they see a crowd of 2,000 people who they are trained to believe are dangerous extremists, they already, they're coming already scared. So that meditation made them realise, oh, okay, maybe they're not going to attack us or create mayhem or whatever. So, but that's who you are. You are the Lord. Deal with it. You're not an agent of the law, you're actually the law. Yeah? Way more powerful, authoritative and sovereign than any police officer could ever be. They're just badge carriers. Used to be servants when they were constables, and now they're just they're working for the protection racket known as the World Ponzi Scheme. And they are arresting people for dissenting from the World Ponzi Scheme. That's all that's going on. Very simple. So, concluding, if you want to know more about education, then there's a wonderful book called School No Place for Children, and totally biased opinion because I wrote it myself. TPL, The People's Lawyer, has a foundational privacy course which you can sign up for. Go on the website and sign up for it. Otherwise, email me if you have any particularly sticky situations and I'll see what I can do. Just giving you advice through email. It's not really advice, it's just signposting to quality information, you know. Because you don't really advise a fellow sovereign, you just give them information that they're lacking.